Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, we wanted to give you a mantra that is very beautiful, and actually, as soon as Cindy and I listen to it, we pretty much have to hold back from crying.
Oh my gosh, it's stunning. It's powerful. It can change your life. It's a little bit difficult, but well worth every bit of effort that you put into it. You will get back.
Most definitely. And so, Cindy was getting from the guides that we should talk to you about, again, why even do mantras? What's a mantra? Some people will say, I do mantras all the time. I just basically tell myself something that they want to achieve. I'm getting better at this, or I'm powerful, or I'm growing in love and prosperity every day. Well, that's basically an affirmation. Now, when we're really talking about mantras, we're talking about they're invocations when you get down to it. They're invoking something into your life. And they're done in Sanskrit. And so they're done in the most ancient language that we have in its entirety on the planet. And they're given to us by these beings that are known as Rishis for the most part. There are more modern mantras, but all the classical ones have been given to us by these beings that are called Rishis. These Rishis are seers. You could think of them as gurus, holy men, wise men, people that spent probably most of their lives in a meditative state for the most part.
Right. And I know some people might feel a little bit intimidated when we use words like invocation, or we're using different vocabulary words than what most people are accustomed to. But this is the part where this is why we need to free our soul. This is why we need to break free of the system that's been handed to us since we were so young. It's because this is so extremely empowering and everybody can use it to just change your life completely.
So this is the website of somebody that makes their own mala beads and sells them. And we're going to touch on that too. What are mala beads? How do I keep count? How many am I supposed to do? There's different types of mantras again. Bija mantras, that's known as a seed mantra. You can make them simpler, and that's fine. And there's times when I go deep into a mantra where I'll stop doing the full mantra and just focus in on Om and the seed sound. So if we're going to say call on Ganesha, Ganesha is the remover of obstacles. I would just simply say Om Gam, G-A-M, because that's the bija sound, the root sound to invoke the energy of Ganesha. Ganesha is many things. He's thought to be the remover of obstacles. Well, we have actually had very in-depth contact with him. And for one, we could speak to the power of the mantras. I've done I don't know how many mantras. I can't even begin to say how many repetitions of mantras I've done, say, over the past 10 years. I would venture to say well into the hundreds of thousands, if not into the millions by now, honestly. And they really work to connect you to these beings. And of course, in traditional fundamental Christianity or even Islam, many people would be terrified of connecting to these beings that seem so different, from us. I mean, Ganesha, he's got an elephant head. He's got 4 arms. His skin is depicted many different colors. So very strange to many people in perhaps the Western culture, though, more and more all this has become very, very familiar to us. Or, connecting to the goddess Lakssmiih. And, these two beings we know very well, and they are as beautiful, benevolent, and high a vibe as we've ever encountered anywhere in any way. And we could add the goddess Aset, known to the Western world as Isis, to that as well. As these are 3 beings, and they are actual beings that we commune with on pretty much an every single day basis. through the power of mantras, because they really do connect you to these beings. They're very powerful. If we were to do something and not use the traditional mantra, we may be able to connect, but it is nowhere near as powerful as using the traditional mantra. And one of the things we learn when you study how things really work, like if you've ever done a study into magic, whether that's pagan magic, ceremonial magic, high magic, or chaos magic, you recognize that it's really all about tapping into energy currents. And I've said before in other videos, if the being Jesus, Yeshua, didn't exist, there would still be so much power in the name. And as we've said, his name wasn't Jesus, it was Yeshua. So he wouldn't really answer to Jesus if you yelled out to him when he was actually in the flesh and blood, walking down the street. You might call Jesus, Jesus. Now, his intuition might tell him, I think they're talking to me, because he was that highly developed. But it's not his name yet, because over 1 billion people, billions really, have called on that name. There's power in that name. All those consciousnesses tapping into a certain sound, a certain frequency, a certain energy. And because there's so much belief in that name, there's tremendous power in that name. There's so much power in sound. Again, every sound that we make, we could change the tones, and we're going to change the frequency. That's as Tesla said, the secrets of the universe are all about energy, frequency, vibration. Now, these Rishis were very wise men. We could actually look at them in the more modern term of an ascended master. They connected and found mantras that worked to connect us to these different divine beings, divine forces. Again, many people look at everything through an astro-theological standpoint. Personification of things like the stars or forces of nature, and anthropomorphizing things as well. But these are actual beings. They are individuals, and we can connect to them. And in our Judeo-Christian tradition, we tend to think of everything as prayers. And we pray to Source, or we only pray to the Most High God. And his name is what? Well, right there, it's not the Most High God if you just say his name is, because that which can be named is not Source. And again, the gods, the Devas, we're not necessarily talking about the source of everything that we see in the multiverse. Yet again, the true source is in all of its creations. So again, source is within us. Namaste might say hi on Google, but it really means the source that is within me. The divine, holy aspect that is eternal within myself recognizes that the same is within you. So these bija mantras are simplified root sounds that you can do to make it shorter. And then there's saguna mantras, which invoke the forms of the individual deities or the personalized aspects of God. Again, it's easier to relate to the devas than it is to source. And in reality, in these bodies with this very, very limited brain, extremely limited, thank you, Anunnaki Gigi, but we're overcoming that. But even if our brain was operating at full potential instead of 10-15% potential, we still couldn't really truly comprehend source because it's so above and beyond all comprehension. It includes the unmanifest as well as the manifest, as we have said. So conceptualizing and thinking about source through an aspect or through an emanation of source, because we are all emanations of source. There are some that we can relate to more than others. Thus, you might relate to a certain being. Maybe that's Freya. Maybe you relate to Thor. Maybe you relate to Yeshua. You know, I mean, it could be that Yeshua is who you relate to more than anybody. Or maybe it's Mary. Maybe it's Mother Mary, or maybe it's Mary Magdalene. You know, or maybe it's just somebody else in totality. And then there are those that don't, that they're so developed in their ability to go within. Like in many Buddhist sects, they don't necessarily go through any of these quote unquote devas or gods. They just basically try to go straight to the source itself. And that's fine too. Just that the devas, these are beings that are there that have already kind of been through where we are now. And they're in the very high realms below source, but way above where we are currently. And they're like big brothers, big sisters, parents. And they just care about us, love us, and they want to help us.
They want to help us. They don't want to do stuff for us. That's really important to decipher, because when we're working with people and connecting with their guides, a lot of people do want detailed information, and we can get some. However, this life is for you. It's for you to discover. It's for you to walk your own path. So guides are guideposts. They're not posts that do everything for you. So it's important we make our own way through this life we've been blessed with, so that we can learn all the things we need to learn, so we can heal all the things that need to be healed.
So, you know, I included a couple of links here for you guys if you want to go into the power of mantra and the history behind it. I'm going to be showing you and doing a video on some of the books that we own on the Sanatana Dharma, which is basically the eternal way, or the eternal path. That is part of what was, well, it is what was given to the Rishis, but there's so much to it, and there's so many books to go deep into in different schools, because not everybody sees it the same. And again, we're all unique expressions, so that's perfectly fine. We really shouldn't see everything exactly the same. That's the whole point of all of this, is different perspectives, different paths. If it was all uniform and the same, how boring would that be?
Oh gosh, and that's another way they use to control us. They want us to stay, they want us to be very predictable. So they give us a path to follow. And when I say they, the controllers, they put out the path so they know what we're going to do, so they can kind of control things for us.
So there's 108 beads that we use, and then there's one bead that is like your stopper. So you go, and as you say one repetition, you move one bead over. And you just keep doing that as you say another repetition. You get used to this movement with your hand, and you'll not even think about it. It'll just be automatic. There are times when I don't use this at all, but there are times when I'll feel like going very formal and grab the beads as well and go through a particular mantra, or usually I'll go through a series of mantras. It's traditional to have one mantra, and often your guru would give you one mantra to use. Traditionally, and then you might learn other ones as time went on. But when you get to the end, then you just reverse and go back again. And again, this is just a tool, but 108 is a very auspicious number. The one thing that hits you as you study the Sanatana Dharma, which is really how we should word it instead of saying Hinduism as a whole, because Hinduism can be interpreted as, the religion from those that are in the Indus Valley region, but this actually encompasses more area. It's bigger than the Indus Valley. Actually, some of the battles that are described in some of the texts occurred basically way north, perhaps up in the Tibetan plateau, and in areas like today's modern Pakistan, as well as Tibet, and some areas that might even be in China. So why is 108 considered auspicious? Well, again, there's many different things that you'll discover as you go into the Sanatana Dharma. One is that it really, really goes along with modern quantum physics and everything that we've been learning about. One stands for supreme truth or God consciousness. 0 stands for nothing or emptiness or the void. And 8 stands for eternity or infinity. So, again, you get that infinity symbol when you turn 8 on its side. It's fascinating to look at all the science that lies behind it. So Vedic cosmology states that the diameter of the sun is 108 times that of the Earth. Distance between Earth and the sun is 108 times the diameter of the sun. Distance between the Earth and the moon is 108 times the diameter of the moon. This Vedic cosmology matches approximately with modern science. It's actually very, very close. And they say that the moon is slowly rotating away from us over time, that it will end up being farther away. And, there are the thoughts that the moon won't be here once the powers that be aren't here anymore either. It's amazing, though, when we start looking at some of the things that they understood. And the figures, as I've said in the last video or two, where they count the age of the current universe actually goes along very well, again, with what modern science says. Now, we know, not everything is truthful in science, that's for sure. So me personally, I totally trust what I get from the Rishis and this tradition, which, again, a lot of this knowledge is in the West, but it's in the Western mystery tradition because it could not be shared openly.
Oh, no. Nope. No, that's why we do things like we have to do things in stories, as we do the videos now. We can't share a lot of stuff openly, but we want to because it has changed my life so much, our lives. We use it in our daily lives. We use it, one of the things I use mantras for is if I'm headed down, my mind is headed down a dark place that's full of fear. I have these mantras I've learned, and I'll just inject a mantra in that thought path, in that thought pattern. And that will kind of help me kick that thought out. And when we're doing the 108 mantras, that does help us become more congruent with our surroundings, more congruent with everything. So life just kind of goes by you a lot easier, and there's not so many things tripping you up. So there's many different reasons to use these to help you in your daily life.
Yeah, and so these Rishis, again, who many consider to be basically ascended masters, they got these mantras through deep, deep introspection and tapping into the energies of the planets as well around us, planets and the stars. Because, again, Gaia, Earth, is a being. It's a living being, a conscious living being. On a different density, it may be a being that looks very typical humanoid female. Think about this, and that's hit me before. You ever see slides of different bacteria that lives in your body? And it almost reminds me sometimes of cars on a highway. Well, maybe to that bacteria, they're not looking at themselves like we see them. Maybe they actually are thinking that they're on a highway in a vehicle waiting to get home and dinner is burning.
All right.
I mean, we don't really know for sure, but we know as above, so below. We know that this is a matrix that is created for our experience. Our bodies are nothing but a vehicle to be operated in this particular density. So the reason why we do them in Sanskrit is because, again, it's the most ancient language that we have. And we get from the Rishis the sounds. There's 50 petals on the chakras that are along the spinal cord. And these chakras are major energy centers that are always pulling in energy on a subatomic level. And without the chakras, we wouldn't be alive. They also are themselves, you could think of them as stargates. They're portals to different densities. When we're opening up the ajna and the crown chakra, then we are really starting to connect with the higher energies. And it's blissful. I was doing practice yesterday, and I was asking Cindy to look, and she said, it looks like your head is like really ginormous.
Mm-hmm.
Because the crown chakra was opened so much, and I'm getting these downloads that are coming in, and they're absolutely blissful. To share the feeling. Well, I mean, there's nothing as good as this feeling, because it's one that gives you a touch of the limitless mind that is all around us. It's something that is so above and beyond just this physical existence. You get a touch of that oneness, which surpasses anything. This is why so many people, when they do pass on, what do they feel? They feel incredible love. And in many cases, it's to the point where they don't want to come back, even if they're told they have to come back. So there's 50 sounds, there's 50 letters, there's 50 petals. These sounds unlock the chakras. So if we had an emotional blow, like yesterday, I'll share with you guys, we were working on our first person of the day, and I looked out the window and I see a dog that I see wandering often. Wander on down, glances over our way. I sent it, a little love. And then I hear a vehicle and I heard a thud, and I went running out, and they had ran over the dog and just drove on, and it really infuriated me. I felt so sad, so I ran back in the house to tell Cindy what happened and call the animal control so we could get something going. I ran out to see if I could comfort it, and it was already dead, unfortunately. And that type of blow, that will shut down your chakras. It'll either, like, actually I felt such anger that somebody could hit it and just drive on. At first I was really livid, and at the same time extremely worried, sad, and concerned. So it's those type of things that will shut down our chakras. Not necessarily permanently, but they might shut us down for a few hours, a day, maybe it turns into a bad week. So these mantras can just write that on the spot. You can't kind of help it. If you vibrate them, say them and vibrate them, feel them, they will open up your chakras. They will change your attitude.
So that will definitely help you process these traumas. One thing that we have going in our lives today, things are so busy and we're being pulled in 10 or 15 different directions all at once. And say we do have a trauma like that happens to us. These mantras can help us process these traumas out so that the knot doesn't remain in the energy field, because when these knots remain in the energy field, your body's not able to receive and give out the information it needs to take care of itself, which are blocks. Ultimately, these are blocks. So these mantras can help remove these, very important for processing.
They're amazing. And so these were spiritual scientists. That's the best way to kind of think of them. And it might seem strange to us to look at people living so simply, maybe even out there in nature with nothing on, not even clothes. Yeah, there are those that follow traditions like that, and just even subsisting off of whatever is offered to them, not even actively looking for food necessarily. They had amazing insight, amazing abilities. And they understood, they didn't desire necessarily the things of this world because they knew it was transitory. It's a transitory state of being when we're here. But they gave us these mantras that can really connect us to beings that can actually help us and really help us in many times of needs. And as we had said, Ganesha is one that one time Cindy, was having some health issues, and she was in Nevada and I was in North Carolina. And her flight got canceled, and then she was on standby, but she was told there were several people ahead, and I just wanted to get her back to me. And so I told her, go do mantras to Ganesh. I'll sit here, I'm going to do mantras to Ganesh, and then let me know when something's changed. And that's what we did. And what happened?
10 minutes later, they called my name, which was absolutely insane, because they were very, very guarded about who was going to get on the plane, and they were very beforehand, they were very sure that I wasn't. So I lost all hope, but we did the mantras to Ganesh, and 10 minutes later, they called me to get on the plane. So if that wasn't a miracle, I don't know what is, because I was so sick. I was so extremely sick, and I needed to get back to Mike, and it happened, and I'll forever be grateful. So I know these beings, they step into our lives and help us if we allow them to.
Yes, and we've had conversations with Ganesh when Cindy's been in trance, and he came in today when we decided we're going to do one on mantras. He popped through right away and said, "Do me, do me." He wants to help people. He is basically somebody that can rewrite contracts.
Akashic records. He can go in those Akashic records. He knows them. He understands them. He's like a esoteric or etheric lawyer, so to speak. So you can sit down, have these conversations with him, explain to him what you want changed, how you want it to work, and he can rewrite that, which is something brand new. We never knew that.
Yeah, sometimes things happen karmically. Like, let's say last life you were very, very rich, well off, and somebody asked you to help, and maybe you didn't help, and then maybe that happened again, and then again. And so in this life, nothing's gone right financially. Well, it could be karma, yes. Could also be that, hey, I need to learn this lesson. I didn't learn it last, time, so I'm going to learn the lesson from a different angle. And you're the one that's really in need of help, and perhaps reaching out to others often for financial help. Well, he could go in and kind of remove your karma, so to speak, rewrite the learning to a different level and change things so that you can get the help that you need and still end up working out things karmically with the universe as well as perhaps in future lives. So he could kind of rewrite contracts, and a lot of things need to be rewritten in this time. And he's definitely one to lean on. Very, very benevolent being, very gentle being.
Very humble. That's what I love about him most. When I did channel him, he felt very awkward. He didn't like being inside of my body. To him, it was almost like he kind of explained it like, I feel like I'm looking at you naked. It just doesn't, he just does not want to impose himself. So he was more stand back and allow me to channel that way. So he's extremely humble. He's very, just a complete gentleman. I mean, just you couldn't find any man sweeter and more honest, really, except for Mike.
No, I will beg to differ. I wish I could be at his level. But again, these are very high level beings. These are beings that have, in many cases, their aspect that has broken off from source to have a unique life and a unique experience. It may have done that eons before you and I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in the difference. So they've had so many more lives to understand things and to move forward and upward. I'll include this for you guys. This is Om Gam GANAPATAYE NAMAHA SHARANAM Ganesha. And this is the one that we would recommend using to contact him directly. We have done a video on Ganesha before, but we wanted to include this in there because specifically he wants to help people in these times. So he can do all sorts of amazing things. Again, he is the remover of obstacles. The way he put it was that when you call on me, he can see the obstacles that are going to be coming in the road ahead of you. And you might have, the goal of, okay, I'm going to move out of California and I'm going to buy my 20 acres in Missouri. And, that might be your goal, but, you got to sell the house first. You got to ask and get a transfer from your boss, or you have to maybe acquire another job there. He's the one that can see all the obstacles. He says, I go in the road ahead of you and I push the obstacles out of the way. So he moves these obstacles out of the way so that as you're doing your transition, you'll find that it's kind of like magically things go really smooth. You know, I mean, somebody calls you out of the blue and says, you know, hey, my cousin's moving and wants to move to this town, but nobody has their house up for sale. Would you be interested in selling? You know, before you even put a sign out there, that type of thing can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we basically that piece of land that we bought in Nevada, for instance. You know, turns out a friend of a friend, you know, bought the piece of land right next to it, and they have a friend that wants to be neighbors with them, and they had plans that they wanted to put an earth bag house up, and so when they saw what was in place already, they want it. So there you go. I mean, this is the type of thing that Ganesh does. So I'll include that for you, so you could reach out to him. And I just thought this was cool, emanating that violet flame.
Mm-hmm.
Again, colors are frequency. And Cindy and I would not be together in this life if it wasn't for this person. And she is a person. This is Lakshmi.
And she, realized that Mike and I both have these things that need to be healed, and we've worked together in past lives, but we needed to be together a little sooner than later, for both of our healing. And she pulled us together. It was really amazing how that worked. All these synchronicities, all these things that fell in place just at the right time. Very incredible.
Yes, and I was working in a clinic, and I had been working on some very, very gifted people, other energy workers and psychics, intuitives, even people that made their living doing that. And 3 times I had people stop and say, by the way, there's this very, very beautiful woman with long dark hair, and she's telling me, and they all gave me the same message. She's telling me to tell you to stop pushing away my gifts. What are you doing? I'm trying to help you. And at that time, I wasn't doing mantras to Lakshmi. And so I just intuitively knew who it was, and I pulled up a picture of Lakshmi, and I said, "Is this her?" "Yes, that's her." So they all gave me that same message, because as you guys probably know, I hate the system. I hate the monetary system. I know it's something that's used to control us. And so, even now, we don't per se charge for our services. We do them on a donation basis. But knowing that we can only do so many, we have a suggested donation for, whatever the service is. But basically, I wasn't really accepting her gifts, because she was trying to bless me to the point where I didn't have to be in the system anymore, so I could do the job I was supposed to do, which is this. Basically develop at first a YouTube channel. Well, at first I developed a healing practice and, basically worked on people. Then that expanded to doing distance work and working with people all over the world. And then the YouTube channel followed. And this is the whole purpose for this incarnation, is to help people get through these times and to show them that they could connect themselves to these higher densities and to these benevolent beings that have been out of our life during the Kali Yuga for the most part. And that's why, because they are not out of our lives in those other yugas, and that's part of why we're blessed in those other yugas, because we have their guidance, and we need their guidance, because they've already gone through all this. They know, again, it's like the big brother, big sister, the parent that's already done all these things.
Right. And sometimes, it might not feel too good when you're learning something, but you have to understand that parents, when, teaching their children lessons, do it out of love. And sometimes the kids look at you like, you big meanie, how could you be so cruel? You're going to make me eat my vegetables. It's kind of like that. We might think that there is something negative going on when they're trying to help us along our path. So we need to be open and understanding and positive about what's being put before us.
And these beings know about each other, even if they're in other pantheons, such as Aset, Isis, is aware of Lakshmi. And they don't work against each other. Same thing with Yeshua. They all know of each other. And what's really fascinating too is the Galactic Federation. They know Yeshua, they know Lakshmi, they know Aset, and they respect them all very, very much. And so, again, that dogmatism comes from very, very small human minds, which is placed in those human minds really by the controllers. Again, divide and conquer. These benevolent forces of light do not work against each other. They work together. And so this is absolutely gorgeous, and I love this version. Cindy does too. This one brings tears to your eyes. It can. And so this is an early morning prayer that is typically done. And I'm going to give you all these links. So what this prayer is, and I'll give you the words here, it's basically invoking these energies to help us to really manifest change in our lives. So it goes, Kara-Agre, Vasate, Lakshmi, Kara-Madhye, Sarasvatii, Kara-Muule, to Govindah, Prabhaate, Kara-Darshanam. And basically what that means is at the top of the palm dwells Lakshmi. In the middle of the palm dwells Sarasvatii. At the bottom of the palm dwells Govindah. Therefore, one should look at one's palms in the early morning and contemplate on them. So you might say, what? Well, Lakshmi is the goddess of abundance. And again, this is about the fact that we have to actually do things in this world that are constructive in order to manifest the things that we need and want and desire. And not just things, but outcomes. So it takes work. So when we're looking at our hands, we're basically saying, what am I going to do today? What am I going to make? What am I going to manifest? Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance. Sarasvatii is the goddess of wisdom. So using wisely that which comes into your life and asking wisely for the right things to come into your life. Because abundance just doesn't always mean things. It certainly most definitely means love.
Mm-hmm. Love and information, wisdom, abundance of things that come to you. You have to look at each individual thing that falls into your path as something that has been put there for you.
And so Govinda. Govinda is a name for Krishna. And Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu. And Vishnu is the preserving force of the universe. And I had asked also, I was really kind of curious. So I got basically the Galactic's take on this with our own Laurel. And she did recognize Krishna as an incarnation of the force that is the preserving agent of the universe, which I thought was really, really interesting, because the deeper I've gone into conversations with Laurel and the Galactic Federation, it does seem that their belief set is very, very much in line with the Sanatana Dharma. So they recognize these beings lie just above them in basically density, and they also work with these beings, and they understand how benevolent they are. So when we're looking at Krishna, there's so many different things about Krishna. He's got a Christ-like attitude, but Yeshua feels a little bit more serious than Krishna is, wouldn't you say? Mm-hmm. I mean, because Krishna is all about, in the incarnation, having fun, finding joy everywhere. Joy everywhere. Right? He was known as a prankster. He would play jokes. He would also, just as Yeshua, we did find that Yeshua asking him, you were said to be eating and partying so, with these people that are sinners.
Mhm.
And yeah, he did like wine, in particular red wine.
Mhm.
And, you know, he was also in the body and recognized it's okay to be in the body and enjoy yourself within moderation.
Mhm.
Krishna, very much the same. You know, when we're in the body, we're supposed to be having fun and learning at the same time and helping others, of course, and sharing love. So, you know, again, when you're looking at this, you're talking about this mantra being all about manifesting abundance in our lives, the right sort of abundance, guided by wisdom, with the heart of a child. Because again, Govinda, there's Govinda and Gopala, and these are the youthful, childlike aspects of Krishna, with like a playfulness. Again, you to be born again, you must be like a child, right? And see things through eyes that look at creation as being just this magical wonderland.
Absolutely. Look at things, you know, through a child's eyes of innocence, and they don't prejudge things that are put in their path. You know, a child might see a ball bounce across them, and instead of thinking, oh my gosh, fear, you know, am I going to get hit by another ball? They're like, oh, let's go get that ball. You know, they're like very much in the moment.
Yeah, be in the moment. And that's a wonderful way. That's the way we're supposed to be, is present in every moment that we get to experience. So just wanted to share all that with you guys. I'll give you guys all the links as always. Anybody that needs to set up time to have an appointment with us, you can reach out through evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com, and we will definitely set up a time to have a session with you, whether it's energy work or spiritual coaching, guidance, astrological charts, all of the above. As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.